Next up, we have Koon Wong, who has been an R convert since late 2019 when a simple question turned him towards the language we know and love. And all of us kind of are familiar with the question, how can we make sense of all these numbers? He is a proponent of experiential learning, and in my opinion, he is also the person with the sweetest bio. In 2022, he experienced probability theory uh, by dedicating 24 buckets to his wife, which is estimated to be about a 6.6% per chance per day. To his surprise, there were several occurrences of back to back purchases of flowers, and that was a great example of experiential learning, which he shared with us. Ken will take us through a fascinating journey of our shiny dashboards and how we can use them to rank candidates, effectively making the recruitment process diverse, equitable, and inclusive. So I'll hand over the stage to Ken, and here we go.
Hi, Dipash. Thank you for the generous generous introduction here. I'm just thinking how does one follow Eric's presentation? But we'll try. Um, it w- I'm happy to be here. I learned so much with this shiny conference. I'm just gonna put it out there. We're not using modules yet, but we will after this. I'm here to share with you a medical educator's journey to data science. One of the examples that we'll be presenting or demonstrating today is a residency applicants ranking dashboard and algorithm. And I'll explain a little bit of what that entails. I have no financial disclosure, and data used here are fabricated or semi-fabricated to preserve some of the interesting patterns. And there are weights that are used here. Again, I reinforce that it does not reflect our prior or current ranking values. So who am I? I am an infectious disease physician by trade. I'm also an associate program director for internal medicine residency program at Cleveland Clinic Akron General. I call myself a data science hobbyist. I love R ever since I became a convert in R. Is just so heartwarming. The R community, the shiny community, um, guided us and also showed us how to solve our technical issues and also how to answer the important questions. So thank you. This is a map of United States. A highlight in red here is Ohio. So for any of you, who wants to come and visit us, we'll take you around. Now, here's the interesting question that we had a few years ago. Imagine yourself. You have 174 recruit candidates. Now, how can you rank them meaningfully after an interview? So just imagine yourself, perhaps you're a CEO at Epsilon or pretend a make-believe CEO of some company, your startup company. How does one use this information and rank it more meaningfully? Typically, anything would start with the workflow of conduct the interview, gather data, rank them, and then wait for match or offer. In the real life setting, you would once you give an offer, a person would accept or not, and those kind of things. But a residency matching is a little bit different. So I'll explain a little bit of what that means. Here in the United States, before a learner becomes an attending physician, we have to go through a residency program, which is a training program. And it's not so simple or straightforward where you will go for an interview and then you get an offer. Sometimes it can be, but majority of the time it has to go through something called matching or ranking. So, for example, here we've got candidate A who had gone through 1 through N interviews. And here you can see on the red, it's us, Akron General. Let's say candidate A ranked us as number 2. And then we as a program would have to rank our candidates or interviewees as well through the process. Um, there is an option for both the candidate and the program to not rank a program or candidate. So that is an option. So once after this rank list is created, at the end of January, all these get submitted to into this what we call NRMP, which is National Rank Matching Program, and they have this algorithm that attempts to match the program and the candidate. And in March, so this week, um, they will release the result to the candidates and also to the program. And the candidates will know whether they match to a program or not, and the program will know whether all their spots are filled. So um, in our example, we're going to focus on the program's perspective of ranking candidates. So since this week is match week, if any audience had gone through this process and had successfully matched, I congratulate you for doing that. But for people who did not match, don't give up. Keep at it. Add more skill, soft skill, hard skill, technical skill to your arsenal, and then keep trying. Don't give up is the key. This is the evaluation sheet that we have. Each year we try to revamp it a little bit different, but just to give you some perspective. So we've got the features or variables on the left side, and then it's a very simple Likert scale 1 through 6 with some criterions anchored to the score itself. The challenges that we had is you have 174 or perhaps even more of those information. How does one interpret those data? It might sound simple for most of you data scientists, but for us physicians, we have a hard time trying to look at this number, through our own heuristic vision. um, and um, and other questions that we had also too is there a difference between international graduates and the local graduates? So just to give you some idea, um, the residency program doesn't only take local grads from the United States, but they also give an opportunity for international grads who had trained in other countries. So we're wondering, is there a difference between those two groups in terms of interview scores? And then how do we take all those into perspective and rank them meaningfully? Not only that, you have an algorithm, you have a ranking. How do you push that into to the leadership world where they can use this tool and be informed of which person to rank and so on and so forth. And lastly, we're we did not know how to code. You know, what is R? All these are very, very foreign to us, and which is very exciting. This was our prototype one. Don't laugh. Um, it's a spreadsheet full of information. Of course, confidentially stuff is being blocked. It worked for a little bit until it didn't. So we embark into the journey of to try to learn data science and try to learn coding. We've got problems with numbers, but we're so lucky and so fortunate to have this open source community, especially in R, and you're just able to learn things through free resources and sometimes paid, with packages like Tidyverse, and then you add on Shiny to it, and with all this dashboard, and then learn so much technical skills along the way to be able to make a dashboard where it's almost like just like a window into the data, so that you don't have to manipulate a lot of the dashboard from a server perspective, and just the data is the one that you can just change things and use a UI from there. And through this journey, I have a newfound respect for data scientists and data engineer. It's a lot of work. It's so I truly understand the challenges behind. It's not just learning new skills and applying it, but it's failure after failure and debug. That truly um, put data science into this perseverance perspective. So I that's definitely something that I've learned from learning this. So this is our first page for our Shiny dashboard. On the side here, we have our side panel, and this what we're looking at is our first page of summary. So I will put just the evaluation sheet on the top right. What we're looking at here is um, we have a question of the overall impression of this candidate. How do you where would you rate this candidate? And so to answer the first question of interpreting data, we never really thought about using visualization until when we start learning things. It's you just looking into just putting into perspective where this candidate is is a very top compared to most of our candidates, and you can see as a whole where the other candidates are from the plot. So that's very interesting insight that we've discovered, yet so simple that we never thought of. Um, and because this graph was made through Plotly, we're able to just hover it and able to quickly see which candidate is next to this person and whatnot. And we use DT for data frame. I'm sorry, table. And you can see here there's very little inter-rater variability, which is a good thing. And not only that, each evaluation should come with some comments. Whether a person is scoring this person high marks or low marks, it should come with the comments, and that really add depth into how this candidate is. And we'll have different section on the first page, and it pulls from different areas as well. Next is a little bit more in depth into all the features, and you can see how this candidate fare compared to the rest of the candidates. From the maturity standpoint, we do utilize Lencioni's ideal team player framework. We do ask behavioral questions and probing questions as part of the process to get a little bit more details as to whether this candidate is hungry for something, or is this are they smart in terms of tackling problem. Then the next question that we had was, is there a difference between international grads and local grads? Is it fair to compare all of them together, or should we split them up? Is there a random effect between these two groups? So just give you into perspective, on the right side of the plot is these are local candidates, and on the left side these are international medical graduate. um, there, at least according to this data set, there may be some uneven distribution of the overall scores. So it either means that the local grads, the scores of local grads is a little bit higher because they are very good, or our interviewers are ranking them higher. So we can explore that a little bit further down the road. The other question that we also had was, is there any communication difference? Because for a lot of our international medical grads, because they English is not their first language, so is there a difference in score compared to local? And at least from this data set, there isn't any. And with all these taken into place, how do we use all this information and put it into a formula? This is when multi-criteria decision analysis comes into play. It's a very simple weighted sum model. So each variable has a weight in front, and it depends on the program's um, uh, uh, decision in terms of would like to increase a particular attribute in the cohort, and you would increase the weight a little bit. So I know this is a zoomed in version of the rank dashboard, but bear with me. There's very busy. On the left here, these are our variables or features. And again, all these are very uniformly allocated for demonstration purposes. But the program could increase the variables or weights, such as in DI, or try to increase our female learners. So these are the things that we could do to try to hopefully decrease bias or minimize bias or neutralize bias in that sense, and try to increase the diversity in our learning environment. Once all those weights are put in, using a normalized score from all the other variables, and you would get a final rank score, and then of course, inversely, you would turn it into a rank. So that's a very simple model, a simple algorithm that we can do years over years, and we can customize it using Shiny, and add on a little bit more in the future, or take things out if we think there's no need for this. Maybe there's a correlation between these two variable. So there's also a very interesting question that we have with this is, you may not know that in United States medical schools, there are two different types, and that's one that is traditional, that with a degree of medical doctor, and then another one is doctor of osteopathy, and their licensing exams have different range scores. The maximum for a DO is, I think it's like 700 something. I actually don't know what the max is. Um, and same thing with the medical doctor as well, because the max score is actually not publicized. Um, and the interesting thing is, like, how can you use those information when it's like uneven, to actually put it into one variable. And so that was very interesting for us to try to tackle and create, and make it as equitable as possible. uh, the next page is a work in progress, but I really enjoy looking at this. It's not just looking at our candidates, but we're looking at our evaluators, how they're evaluating. Is there a system issue? Is there, are we rating things accurately? So again, these are fabricated initials, but looking at this three evaluators or interviewers, um, you see perhaps a little bit more skewed on this setting. So this is turquoise color, so it's local candidates. So this interviewer tend to perhaps rank the local candidates a little bit more compared to this and this evaluator. So, and then it opens up a lot of questions. The question is, are these two evaluators not assessing correctly or accurately, or is this evaluator biased, or is it our evaluation form issue? The criteria is not explicit enough. So it opens up a lot of questions, but those are good questions to ask, to so that we can tune our evaluation. And how do we share this data and algorithm among the program leadership? This is when Shiny shines. Very simple. We've got a private data on a Google Sheet and a Google Drive, and through Jenny Bryan's Google Sheet for API with an API key, um, and here comes Shiny. And with all these other packages to make things more interactive, easier to find, easier to locate with DT packages. So it's a very simple Shiny app, really, but it's so helpful for us. The limitation for our project here, there's one of the many limitations that we had. But the first thing that we're trying to correct and fix and investigate is more of an inter-rater score variability. How can we, because the interviewers could score things a little bit differently, and how can we minimize that variation? Sometimes we do want some variation because perhaps it might capture some signal. And optimal algorithm is also interesting question as well, because the target is very different every year. there may be a year that we have to increase a certain amount of attributes in our learners environment, or another year will be another. So this is to try to fix everything or adjust everything. I think that that might be a little bit more challenging, but I think it's doable. In conclusion, Shiny Dashboard really um, save us time. Um, in the past, we used to have a lot of meetings in between interviews to try to create a rank score. But now we meet perhaps 2 to 3 times um, during the interview season, and the 2 times that we meet is before the interview. We actually sat down and talk about what are the weights, what are the attributes that we would like this year beforehand, and correct our evaluation sheet and make sure things are succinct. Um, and then the third one, the one and only one, would be um, when we have all the data set, and that's when we look at the algorithm and then we rank. And we This is a tool for us. Um, it, the program directors do have clinical judgment and intuition towards who he or she thinks will be best for the program, and then using this algorithm and tools to help to fine tune the final rank list. And we do think that this weighted algorithm is able to help us to perhaps minimize or neutralize bias in that sense, um, because because we're actually using almost all of the information that we have to create the final result. Um, I really enjoy this piece where we have continued improvement and the opportunity for self-evaluation, because that's how we can improve, and that's how we can um, uh, look and see what is it that we want to tackle this year to make the interview process much better. And of course, more ideas. The more we do this, the more we think, oh, hey, maybe we can apply this to that, and link this to another thing, and it creates a lot of creativity and innovation in the sense, knowing the foundation and fundamental behind how to create this. Finally, this project it's not a continued success without a team. The physician leaders, Dr. DeWalker, Dr. Solomon, they've been uh, very engaged and collaborative in making this happen. It does take an innovative leader to give freedom to your team to try to create something new, something that's not been done before, and try to stir the pot. So thank you for that opportunity for us to implement this. And Jennifer Hayes is our program coordinator, and she's put so much effort into making this happen uh, uh, from a logistic perspective, making the interview happen, making it smooth, making sure the data is there, and and we also have local community Cleveland R user group. If there's any technical questions that we have with certain things, we can always ask them, and they guide us to the right direction, or sometimes answer the question. And also Shubayu for helping us out with fine tuning the algorithm too. Um, i- if you've got ideas you would like to collaborate, please feel free to contact me. It doesn't have to be medical. Data science and R and all those things is just it's just so interesting. And trying to solve a problem is I think that itself is that's what really sparks the interest. If you've got feedback on this, please send it my way. Um, Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for this amazing presentation and sharing with us this amazing tool. And while I was watching your presentation, especially the open source slide, it was incredible to see, how it really echoed what Philip shared in his keynote a day before, that we always build on top of each other. And I think that's really one of the key things that I've seen echo throughout this conference, that so much open source contribution leads to these awesome solutions coming up. And I'm really glad that you chose Shiny to, build this. And we have a few questions from the audience. So from Stephen, we have, did you compare how the score of prior applicants might be a predictor of resident quality by any potential metric of how well they do?
No, we do not, and did not. And there's a very good question. It is something that is definitely an opportunity for us to do. Um, it can be a little bit challenging for us because the again the features and the metrics are always changing, and we even change our Likert scale every year. We sometimes do six, sometimes do five. We try to create a cognitive dissonance so that our interviewers are not just straight lining things. But that is a very good question, and we're still trying to figure out how to do that when we have all this noisy information.
Great, great. And from Timothy, we have this question about, the ranking committee itself. Assuming that there is a ranking committee, how difficult was it to, sell this solution to them, bring them in from the Excel sheet that you showed earlier to something algorithm/dashboard based? What was it, a major change in how the matching was being, done, and what challenges you faced? Maybe possibly you could shed some light on that.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question because it does have to come from top down. You have to have a buy-in from the stakeholders and leaders, and this is when trying to tell a story and create a motivation behind it, and that's I believe that's the key. Persistence is a key too. I think it did the first year when we did this. I think most of us know it's there, but it didn't really take off until 2 or 3 years later. So it's I think if you believe in something and be persistent about it, and just uh, get some evidence behind on hey, these data scientists are doing this, that company is doing that, and try to sell that and go at it. I think that's a key. At least it worked for us.
So kind of like a proof of concept in the industry, and that validates the approach itself when you're trying to sell that. So I think that's definitely something all of us do. And we have another question from Curtis, who asks, "What package did you use to implement MCDA? Also, have you used applicant ranking scores to predict IT scores for IM?"
So two-part questions. The first one, the MCDA, there's no package. It's just a formula. So it's very easy. You can just put weights times variable plus, it's a total sum of the model. And again, our variables are normalized, so you might have to create a function to normalize the data. And the second question, can you repeat the second question?
Absolutely. Have you used applicant tracking scores to predict the ITE scores for IM?
No, we have not. Not from the ranking perspective. We did have other. We have used ITE. So ITE, for those people who don't know what that means, it's an in-service training exam. We have used in training exam scores using machine learning and random forest to predict how a person does when they graduated from our program, when and when they take their board examination to see if there's if they pass or fail. So we do have that, and we still actively use that to determine which learner in our program requires more assistance in test taking.
Also, I think we have one last question which ties in a couple of questions that we have, which is about improvements, further improvements, except the modularizing the app. For example, Celeste asks, "Is the data fed into Shiny exclusively from spreadsheets? Have you considered building a form for evaluators to input their rankings? And where can you see more improvements in the workflow itself?"
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, we have thought about using a form to feed that into the a Shiny dashboard. We do use another program, which a proprietary program for virtual interviews, and that itself also can serve as a platform to put in the scores and the evaluation. Um, we we do uh, we do face a challenge where the evaluation sheet that we have intuitively when you put it on paper or that PDF, it's easier to fill out. And if we were to put that into Google Sheet, it's a little bit hard to, you got to scroll things down. So it's more of a UI experience. So yeah, if we can make it as good as what we have is one page, I think you're right. We might be able to make it more autonomous.
Awesome, and so it becomes like a design problem that you would have to solve. And I think, given the track record that you actually just learned Shiny and mastered all that, I'm pretty sure you're going to crack that definitely. And this is an incredible journey. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. This was an incredible app to you. Uh, Thank you so much, Ken. This was just great.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, and I learned so much. So thank you all for all your help and all your guidance.